Just the title bar, title slide.
Yep, just the title slide. I did a presentation like this at TTSO, and I did I feel like a live demo using the actual function on the on Occult, but lacked a bit of structure, so I thought I'd do this by way of PowerPoints, and it gives you a record of what the process involved. So I should try to move through this fairly quickly. Double star observations seem to cause a fair bit of grief amongst people about how do you process them, and they can be challenging. I remember in the early days, there was one double star event which I didn't sort out over for a period of a couple of years. When you get an observation which claims double stars, one of the challenges is you've got to match observations of the components, match the observations to the components of a double star. In many cases, this is very straightforward. It's damned obvious. But sometimes it takes quite a bit of effort. So anyone processing double star observations, you can be faced with some effort in identifying observations with components of the stars. One of the issues that comes up in this process is which is the brighter star and which is the fainter star. Now, for some events, for quite a few events, that's very obvious. One component is very bright, the other is very faint, and there's no real ambiguity. However, if the stars are of similar brightness, and I'm similar with a fair bit of liberal interpretation, you need to treat the observer's identification of which star is a brighter one and which is the fainter one with great skepticism. It's basically you need to start off with saying, well, this is interesting, but he may have it wrong. Importantly, various tools can indicate magnitudes in the light curves. When it comes to this issue, my strong advice is don't treat the magnitudes that come out of any of our light curve tools as giving a definitive measure of the magnitude or the comparative values. If you tie yourself down to what the light curve measuring tool tells you, then you could be heading for problems. You need to make your own assessment. To give you an indication of the type of thing you can be faced with, on this side here, this plot here, this is all the individual observations just plotted together, and you can see for observer 5, this chord here, it had a 2-step event there and a 2-step event there and a longer 2-step event there than there and a shorter one there. How do you fit all those together to make a sensible fit of anything? What on earth do you do with it? One of the tools that you have in Occult is when you've entered the data, one of the options is to say it's a companion star event. So where you've got a double star event like that, a step event like that, then you'd say one is the primary component, the other is the secondary component, and you do that based on an initial guess of relative magnitudes. When you do that, a mess there But there's a box here which says for double stars, this is on the form that plots the results. You can show either all the events there together, which this one is, or if you click the primary star, that will plot all the events which you've identified as being the primary event, primary star event. And if you do the secondary star, you got all the events there. Now, if you've got things right, when you click between primary and secondary, you'll see a suitable aggregation or suitable collection of points. So you can see, rather than a mess like this, you can imagine some sort of something going through that as well as something going through that. And in the process of trying to sort out the arrangement of which star is which, this ability here is quite important. You need to also keep in mind that for some observers, they will only record either the primary star or the secondary star. Now, the primary star is a default entry into as an observation, and an observer sees the star disappear. Of course, they naturally or partially disappear. They actually think it's the primary star, but it may not be. This process here allows you to see which is which and to adjust on the actual listing of all the observations, which star is the primary star and which star is, or which event corresponds to a primary event, and which, take these off, and which corresponds to a secondary event. If you've got that right, then these are the types of scenarios. The first plot is the plot of the scattered set of observations. This plot here is if you try to do an elliptical fit to those observations, that is what you get. But when you've done a proper matching, here you can see how the ellipses, a fitted ellipse, fits the two different sets of events. And you can see how, well, let me get it on this side, this observer only recorded, they missed that term, this observer is a visual observer, and that one's a visual observer. But you can see, imagining observers up there, the order, the sequence of events, so this one might be faint star, bright star. Up here, an observer here would be bright star, faint star. So the order of events that you have in an observation is not the way to allocate the primary and secondary star. You really do need to go through a process of fitting. And when you've got all the events fitted properly, then you get this final fit, which shows all the observations amalgamated over the two ellipses. You can do a least squares fit of the ellipse to all the observations with the position, angle, and separation being part of that least squares best fit. And then you can see also that here we have two chords, two observations, which are discordant from everyone else, which is you can pick up in the weighting. So that's the basic process of matching. In that process, you often need to look at light curves, and sometimes have a close look at them. These light curves, they've come out of the occult light curve database, which I maintain, and I would encourage people to submit their light curves in here, because then we can easily look at the light curves from any event where it's available. The bottom light curve, you can see a nice little step event here. and another step event there. The change in light level there and the change in light level there is similar. So coming along this way, it's disappearance of the secondary, disappearance of the primary, reappearance of the secondary, reappearance of the primary. This light curve is interesting. You've got a lot of noise or long period noise involved in this light curve. On the reappearance side, you've got a very nice clear step event, which is longer than this one. But at this end, what's going on there? Do you have a step event in there? Whoops. I would argue that there is a step event in there. You've got the step in there. How you distinguish what's noise and whatever in there is a challenge. But often when you get a small step event on one side, there is a corresponding small step event on the other side, but it's very hard to see in the noise. And unfortunately, and is Tony still with us? I don't think, I know that IOTA is not built to handle
I'm still here.
Step event situations.
Dave,
requires a significant deal of extra processing, and I do it with a manual. You force the program to look at those two rises, having identified them. I suspect peyote or peyote is in the same category with that, which means there's limited capabilities to measure specifically the step durations.
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah.
Dave, can you hear me?
This is the area where we get into the challenging bit of double star observations, because there are various solutions that you can have for it. It's not a case of having a single solution for all events. The first solution, which is probably in the minority, and that is from the distribution of the chords, you know exactly where the asteroid is located relative to the chords. So from this event, I've split the chords up into the primary and the secondary. And you can see on this one, the primary star, all these points are distributed around there, and you can fit an ellipse or whatever to it, and you know where that ellipse is relative to the star. Similarly with the other component, yes, it only goes through part of the profile of the asteroid, but you can only place the star on the chords on this side of the ellipse. So you know that wherever the, you know that there's no ambiguity in the location of that asteroid compared to the chords. It's always on this path. So here you have, relative to the observed chords, in this one you have certainty for the primary star, and for this one you have certainty to the secondary star, which means you have a unique solution. You know where both stars are, and you do a basic least squares fit out of it all, and you fit them all, and you have a unique solution. The second situation is a double solution, where you have two possible solutions for the event. In the first one here, that's the situation showing the one component of the stars there, and you have two chords here. Clearly the asteroid is located on that side of the two chords. One observer is recorded a second star, companion star. So we've only got one chord. So that chord could be located on this side of the asteroid, or it could be located on this side of the asteroid. We have no basis to decide which side of the asteroid that chord goes on. So when you put all this together, here's the combined plot. There's the primary star on this one, matching this one. And here's the location of the secondary star. And in fact, the separation, that line gives a separation, a very wide separation. And for this one, this is the alternative solution, which has the secondary star chord located here. So two valid solutions there. Now, with this one, there's an extra consideration that can come into play. This bit in the middle here is a representation of the position, angle, and separation of the two components under this solution. And you can see it's quite a close separation. Whereas on this one, it's a very wide separation. For this one, that separation corresponds to the distance from there to there. You can see from that for this observer, the companion star would have been way up the top. So that situation is consistent with one observer recording both stars and the other observer only recording one star. This situation, this observer here has recorded both the primary and secondary star. You can then have a look at observer one, this observer, and then ask the question, well, does his recording show any sign of a second star event? Because with this solution, this observer should also have had a step event. So you can potentially resolve between those two situations by making sure you look at the light curves. Being able to resolve it in that way is frequently possible, but by no means always possible. And if you can resolve it that way, this one can reduce to a single solution. The third type of solution is where you've got four solutions. And again, here's a light curve from out of Occult, and it's an event that Bill Hanna observed earlier this year. And you can see light curve there, a drop, an observation in there, and a flat bottom there, and then a rise. For this type of light curve where you've got a clear drop on one side, but no drop on the other side, we assume that both stars reappeared at the same time on this side of the light curve. Otherwise, you'd expect some sort of step, which there isn't in this light curve. Now, in analysing this, these two plots are plots of the primary star. So that's the chords relevant to this event here. And you can see that chord could be on that side of the asteroid, or it could be on that side of the asteroid. And then you've got this secondary star, which I've got these back to front, never mind, this star here, and it can be also on one side or the other side of the asteroid. So you've got two possibilities there, two possibilities there. You finish up with four possible solutions. And yeah, and it's not convenient for me to show what those four solutions are, I don't think. Perhaps I do. No. So I haven't. haven't shown those 4 possible solutions graphically, but 2 of the solutions will have both chords on one side, and 2 of the solutions will have both chords on the other side. Now, there's an underlying astrometric issue in all of this, and that is in almost all our double star discoveries, double star measures, our double stars are not resolved in Gaia. In Gaia, they just appear and are measured as a single dot of light. So we need to match the photocenter of the double star situation to the Gaia position. So to do that, we need to specify the relative brightness of the stars. And on the double star panel that appears with the plot, there's this star brightness ratio. That's the brightness of the star which you're using as the primary star. I'll come back to that in a minute. And over the brightness of the other star. And you use the light curves to get that value. What I said the other slide, that don't trust the magnitudes, you can reasonably do the ratio of the drops on the light curves to get this value. It's only approximate. In reality, with our light curves, there's no certainty in this issue, but you put that there, and then occult, when we have the solution, it will do a relevant proportioning so that we report the position of the asteroid relative to the photocenter of the Gaia star. So we have precise astrometry. In terms of which stars do you use in the brighter in the solution, for unique solutions, that's the first one, and also for 4 solutions, you would aim to use the brighter component, but it doesn't really matter. For double solutions, you must use the component where you have where you know the path of the star across the asteroid. Even if it's clearly the fainter star, you must use that, because you know that is the one which tells you the star is definitely, the asteroid is definitely here. Now, there's a real complication with the astrometry when you've got 4 solutions. We want to be able to position the asteroid relative to the Gaia position of the star. Problem is, when you've got 4 solutions, there are potentially 4 possible locations of the various components. There's a process for doing this on the double star solution panel. There's a set offsets button, and that brings up this form here. There's a set of instructions of what to do there. Follow those instructions. It's a matter of setting the star which you're going to treat as the primary star. I'll go back. If this is going to be the primary star, it's a matter of fitting initially the chord of the star at that side of the asteroid and clicking and then clicking the north chord button here. Then fitting the chord to the bottom side of the asteroid and then clicking that button. Then click the button Set Offsets. And when you do that, set offsets, you'll have on here a set of numbers being displayed, and they are offsets of the center of the asteroid from the relevant chord. And then you click the close button, and that will take you back to the main plot form. And I'll just... And when you get to the main plot form, let me, pardon me for jumping around here, what you need to do is, having set those, that parameter, on the best fit form, you should clear the checkboxes for locating the center of the chords. That's a fairly significant bit to do. Clear those boxes so that you don't lose your settings. Yeah, so that's there. My apologies if this has had a little bit complex, because it is complex. And it's one of those things where you've got to try some examples to work through. To set the solutions, you've got to set the solution number. Now that's on the double star solution panel. There's options for 4 solutions. Only specify or select the number of solutions you're going to work with. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. For a unique solution, you'd only use 1. For a 2-star solution, you use 2, 1 and 2. And for the 4-star solution, once you use all 4. You do a fit of the chords using position, angle, and separation here with the controls. There you've got that brightness ratio I showed before. And for unique and double star solutions, if you check those boxes, you can use the automatic fitting routine to fit the location of the 2 stars and get a combined fit to the profile. If you have a unique solution, you can just click those and do the automatic solution to your heart's content, and it'll solve it. If you've got 2 solutions, I'll go back here. If you've got 2 solutions, you need to set it up so that for one solution, when you're solving, you've got the companion star on one side, clearly on one side, and then do the fit. And then for the other solution, you need to move that companion star to the other side and then do the fit. Otherwise, you can end up getting exactly the same fit. You need to manually position the chord to start off with on one side or other of the center of the asteroid to get the solution to converge to the one that you want. So that's that box. Remember, they're the 4 solutions: separation, position, angle there, and whether or not to include them in the automatic solutions. That actually that's pretty much what I said before. Now, having gone through that, you've solved all your double star solutions. What do you think you have? Sometimes with these things, you get lost in the processing. How do you see what the solutions are? Well, if you go onto the main editor form, at the top, there's an option of solutions, and then there's a box there for double stars. And one is to list current double star solutions. And the other is to delete the solutions. Well, here for list current solutions, here's one with 4 solutions. And you can see what the 4 solutions are. Often with four solution events, the solutions are often quite symmetric. They will be fully symmetric if you're doing a fit to a circle. If you've got an ellipse fit, then the solutions are not symmetric. And you'll also find there's a symmetry in position angles. Those two there, same separation, but the position angles are sort of 180 degrees apart, and those ones are a large way apart. So that gives you a listing of your solutions. If you click the delete solution, and hey, you may have put in too many solutions, you might have a unique event but finished up putting in 3 solutions. How do I get rid of them? Well, click the delete solution. Up here, click solutions delete, and you'll get this form. And if you want to delete any solutions, you just click the relevant checkbox and then click delete. And if you do it, you might do it cautiously and just do one at a time, or you can do it all at once. The form, once it's deleted, will reappear. You need to just close the form and you can get back to your main processing form. And the final slide here is view all double stars. There's currently 199 double stars in our asteroidal occultations, of which 198 are discoveries. The very first one there is the Beta Scorpii occultation by Jupiter back in 1971. To get this list on the main occult form for minor planet occultation observations, just click double stars. This will bring up a list which is current for right up to date there. You can sort the list by date and star number and various other things to see what's there. And I need to emphasize that they're all discoveries. And the final form, getting official recognition for a discovery. Yes, we identify a double star in our database. What sort of general recognition of that? Well, we know about it, but nobody else, basically. The official recognition comes by getting into the Washington Double Star Catalog. How does that happen? It does not happen by us writing directly to USNO. This was an issue I discussed with the relevant person, Brian Mason, quite a few years ago. They do not accept direct reporting of double star observations. It has to be published somewhere. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. To get it into the WDS, it has to be published in a journal which they're going to monitor. And their strong advice was to use the Journal of Double Star Observations. USNO regularly monitors that and uses that to create an entry in the WDS. So that requires a little bit of extra effort for preferably the people who actually made the observation of writing a short paper. Now, we've got numerous papers that people have written over the years. We probably should place somewhere a repository of those papers so people can basically get a template for what they need to do. Because basically, the text is pretty much the same. You need to have possibly a light curve or two put in there, which is just a cut and paste, and the actual solutions. The rest of it is pretty much stock standard text. So it should not be onerous for anyone to write such a paper. And the people at Journal of Double Star Observations, they're more than happy to receive your paper and they will assist in whatever needs to be done to meet their requirements. And in terms of journals, they're about the easiest ones I've ever come across in terms of being helpful and what their needs are. Now, one issue that I've occasionally seen is when you've got multiple solutions. Oh, if I've got multiple solutions, I haven't really measured the parameters of the star because I really don't know which one it is. That's the wrong attitude to take. When we've got those multiple solutions, the one thing we do know for certain is it is a double star. What we don't know for certain is the exact parameters. We might have 1, 2, or 4 solutions. For those that worry about that, you need to understand that any double star observations that use speckle interferometry, and that's a large number these days, the speckle interferometric technique has a 180-degree ambiguity in the position angle. So already there's a whole heap of observations in the WDS where, and in the interferometric catalogue, where inherently there are 2 solutions, but you'll only see 1 in the published catalogue. What the USNO does for these is they take note of all the solutions, and all 4 solutions, for when we have 4, get recorded in their internal databases. But one of those, and it'll usually be the first solution that we put in the paper, one of those is what appears in the WDS. So the fact that you've got multiple solutions, not relevant. The paper includes all 4 solutions. USNO picks them up, but you get an entry in the Washington Double Star catalogue of your discovery. And that's my last slide. So, questions?
Hey, Dave, this is Tony George.
Yep.
Yeah, when you asked me that question earlier, you didn't have your headphones on, so you couldn't hear me. But you asked if PyOut could examine step events.
Yep.
And yeah, it does that very effectively. It'll give you the upper baseline, the mid-step baseline, and the mid-bottom baseline. The only issue is that you have to break the light curve. You have to trim it into sections to do that. But the advantage of that is it will also tell you if those intermediate steps are statistically valid or not. In other words, are they true, or could they possibly just be noise? So that's a good thing that it will do. So the answer is kind of yes. It takes a little trimming and manipulating of the light curve, but yes, we can do that.
Yep. Yes, in that sense, IOTA doesn't handle that. But the other tool, iMovie, it processes the double star events quite nicely. And out of that, it does a magnitude calculation as well.
Yeah.
And in Occult, you can do the magnitude calculation of the 2 components. Because if you've got the total magnitude and the relative brightness and drop, then you can compute the component magnitudes reasonably well.
Yeah, I think iMovie is a better tool for that. The only thing is it doesn't tell you if that intermediate drop is statistically significant or not. It might give you a false positive. And
that's but yeah, for very short step events, that's a problem.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I had.
Question?
Is everyone dumbfounded?
Any other questions?
No, I had a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Dave, I put this in the chat, but you said our doubles are not resolved by Gaia. And is that simply because some of our occultation doubles are so close together, they're not
Yes,
split by Gaia?
that's right.
Really?
The majority of our double stars, their separation is below the resolution of Gaia.
That's amazing.
Um,
Oh,
you should not underestimate the power of our occultation technique in various things. Double star resolutions, we get separations down to a milliarc second at times. There's several where it's possibly below a milliarc second. It's in 10 milliarc seconds, well below Gaia. It's the resolution, 100 milliarc seconds is sort of whatever. And the other thing is in astrometry, for the small asteroids, when I was involved with a paper this year, late last year, with Paolo Tanga, who's doing the asteroid solutions out of Gaia.
right.
And we did a paper there looking at the orbit determinations based on occultations versus the Gaia. And for somewhat smaller asteroids, if you get down to 10-kilometer diameter asteroids, our occultation solutions are better than the Gaia asteroid solutions. So we have a very powerful technique if we use it right.
Very exciting. Thank you.
Dave,
Any other questions for Dave Herald?
Yes.
Dave done them before Dave got.
Okay. In the data release 3, they have, hundreds of thousands of new double star solutions. What is their resolution? I thought they went down quite a bit lower than of course, with DR2 and the previous solutions. It's they weren't resolving any. They just would put a duplicate source flag for anything less than 0.2 of a second or something. But I think now that they have actual solutions, what is the semi-major axis range of that? And I imagine some of those are. Have you been able to correlate those new orbits yet with our data?
You might be surprised, David, but for some reason my time can be somewhat limited.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure this is a pretty big job. Someone else maybe should.
To be honest, I haven't spent any real time looking at the DR3 data. In terms of predictions, EDR3 positions are the same as DR3 positions, except when you get into the ones where you've got the double solutions. So if we're going to take into account all those other things, the revisions of our catalogues and how we do it, I wanted to have more experience. So I haven't gone in and in detail what the double star stuff is in Gaia. Yeah, somebody else can look at it. Who's a double star enthusiast?
Maybe someone in the Gaia project is interested in this or has already done some comparisons with our double star lists against their observations. I think they would be interested in that. So we might ask,
Yes.
well, if someone has already checked that, or if not, would be. I would like to know specifically for the star that was occulted by Walkira in January, if that star might have an orbit. Had a 0.05 of an arc second separation, so it's not the really tiny smallest separations that we can do, and so I'm wondering if that star has an orbit or anything in their data.
Well, David, I'll be somewhat cheeky. You obviously have a great interest in this star, so we look forward to the results of your investigation.
Yeah, I want to, before I publish it in Journal of Double Star Observers, I want to see what the Gaia data are. I've never tried to download any of the Gaia data myself, so I would need some help with that.
You're not too old to learn.
Yeah, I guess not. But although my 80th birthday is coming up next month, so.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so anyway, yeah, we definitely, when things die down a little bit, I do plan to cobble together an article about that event for the Journal of Double Star Observer, so we get it into the end of that.
Yeah.
But and one other just general thing about the whole IOTA meeting. I notice now we're down to 41 participants. I know at one time we were up to 65. At some point tomorrow, when we reach kind of a maximum, it's probably near the beginning of the meeting. I think we should just have a break at some point where we have everyone turn on their cameras, and then we do a gallery view and get snapshots of everyone in attendance.
Yep.
That's a fine idea. We'll give that a try.
Now, Dave Galt had something to tell me off with.
Don't be like that, Dave. My question is regarding the ratio of the components. Is that relatively new? I
Yes.
don't recall. Oh, good.
Yep.
All right. Well, that
and I've gone through the back file and added the data for all the past events.
Okay, great. All right. The other point I'd like to make is if you've observed a step event, potentially a double star event, it's critical to leave evidence in the light curve archive so that people can see the step events in your light curve, and don't retain it on your computer. Give it to others to have a look at. So that's what the light curve archive is for. So the double star